It's episode 215 of The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture. I am your host, Brian Barnett.
I'm Joshua Mobley.
I'm Chris Shriver.
And I'm Mitchell Saltzman.
Hey!
Hey!
Welcome, Mitch. It has been too long, and we're very, very happy to have you here joining us. This, ladies and gentlemen, and people of all kinds, is our Game of the Year episode. So we're going to be talking about the absolute best and brightest of 2021. But before we do this, I want to give Mitch a chance to introduce himself. I'm sure that our wonderful, educated, well-read listeners are familiar with his body of work. But just in case, Mitch, where might the good people know you from?
Well, it depends on how long you've been following me, which might be weird if you're following me for a long time. But I got my start at Gamefront. I was one of the YouTube people there. We did a bunch of Dark Souls playthroughs. We did all kinds of Let's Plays and walkthroughs and all that stuff. Praise the sun. Actually, I got Artorias right there in the background.
Artorias of the Abyss?
Yep, that's him. But most people probably know me from IGN. I am an editorial producer. I do a lot of reviews, previews, top 10s, features, and my main job is doing gameplay clips. So I do a lot of the straight up first minutes and just, general gameplay that goes up on the site.
Heck yeah. Also, I think this was my first one. Mitch was the one who made the video and did the voiceover for my very first feature for IGN, which is the history of Broly.
Oh, yeah, I do remember doing that.
Which is a fun one that I always like bringing up. Really, really good. Yeah, so again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been very, very busy. It's been trying to get him on for a while, and we finally did for this auspicious occasion. So let me just go ahead and run you all through how this is going to go down. So we're all going to mention our favorite games from 2021. Probably a lot of these are going to be just very quick mentions and brief mentions of like what made them so good. And then we're going to narrow this down, and we're each going to give 2 awards. One is the Critics Award, which is the game that is the closest to perfect. This is the game that we would give the highest score if we were giving it a scored review. We can cross that bridge when we come to it. And then our second award is going to be the Heart Award. This is going to be a game that was really meaningful to us, even if it has like some fairly serious flaws. If the mechanics are off, but like it has a really touching message, stuff like that. And that's basically how it's gonna go. So, how shall we start this? Shall we just go through some of the stuff that's not chaff, but like on the lower end? Shall we just go through like a lot of our honorable mentions?
Yeah, why don't we
favorite chaff of the year?
Go around and we'll each toss one out, and if we, start to overlap, we'll just jump in and all that good stuff. But we should start with Mr. Saltzman, as he is our illustrious guest.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I guess I'll start off. This would be probably, it's my personal game of the year. It's not the game that I would score the highest, but it's the game that I played the most of. I had the most fun interactions with, and it's one that really, I think, brought me closer together with that man, Brian Barnett. It's Guilty Gear Strive. I reviewed it. I gave it a 9 on IGN, and I like the games that really stick with me from year to year are the games that I think push a genre forward. And I think Guilty Gear Strive really does that. It's got best-in-class netcode. It's got, some of the best fighting game visuals I've ever seen. You could argue whether or not you prefer realism or art, kind of anime style, and that would probably put the argument of like Mortal Kombat 11 versus Guilty Gear Strive. But I think among those two, those are 2 of the best looking fighting games that have ever come out. I think it's also got really good. It's really good in other areas that don't get a lot of attention. I think it's the replay function of being able to search a replay of you're able to get so specific with it. You can check, okay, I want to see a replay of this specific character who wins at this level of play. And it's just like, it's so helpful to actually get better at the game. So Guilty Gear Strive, I think, is one of those fighting games that really pushes fighting games forward and raises the bar for other fighting games to meet. So that's my personal game of the year. Even though I wouldn't give it my Critics Award, I wouldn't give it my Heart Award.
I definitely agree. I mean, as Mitch mentioned, like, we've played a lot of Strive together, and there is a community of people that I feel like has grown a lot together. Because we met after whatever previous fighting games came out, but we all experienced the launch of Strive together. And like, longtime listeners of the show will remember, I reviewed that game for this podcast, and it's an awesome game. It had some issues, but I absolutely agree with Mitch that it is the gameplay, the interactions, the netcode. Like, you can play anyone, really. Like, I haven't found anybody for whom the connection isn't like really good. As a matter of fact, like, I played friend of the show and previous guest host Ronnie Barrier. I had him playing with me some matches of Guilty Gear Strive. We were both playing on Wi-Fi, and I was on my laptop in the middle of my living room, and the connection was rock solid. It was ridiculous. Like,
it's magic. It's absolutely magical when you compare it to other fighting games of the same, the same style.
Even from the same developer. Like, you guys know, I love, like, my favorite fighting game of all time is Dragon Ball FighterZ. And I hope someday that game gets rolled back that's as good as Guilty Gear Strive, because that game is really difficult when you're playing anybody that is even remotely distant from you. But yeah, I super respect that pick. That is definitely on my list of favorites for this year as well.
Good pick.
Yeah. Chris, what's a big one for you?
A big one for me is one that I'm actually like currently playing. And while I believe that it is a very good game, I think it's a very good showcase of the next gen consoles, I don't think it's the best of the franchise. That's Resident Evil Village.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying my time with it. I think the intro is a little weird, like, in terms of how disjointed or like how confusing it can be, that those first like hour and a half, first 2 hours. But once you get through the castle and the game really starts to open up, it gets back into that like RE4 kind of like type of exploration where like you open up a section, they give you a map, and you're kind of going through each room and trying to figure out what's in each individual space. And it's all pulled together with really horrifying set pieces that like have me audibly screaming at my television. So no, I mean, it's got a really cool progression upgrade system like most of the Resident Evil games do, and I'm enjoying my time with it. But I think the environments and the character models and everything like that are like some of the best that we've seen at this point. But I hate Ethan Winters as a character so much.
That tracks.
Yeah, he's the worst. And the things that happen to him are like, Resident Evil has some off the wall batshit crazy things in it, but like this game takes it to a whole other level. Like in ways that I won't even spoil. And if you've played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it is fun. Like, it's a great game. I'm really enjoying my time with it. I'm excited to see it through. But by no means do I think it's game of the year. It's just, dumb fun horror with, good exploration in it.
I do think like my game of the year list has to come with like an asterisk that says like only played through the castle portion of Resident Evil 8.
Yeah.
Because I definitely wish that I played through more of it. The honest truth, I got to a point where I knew what was coming next, and I got scared.
I don't blame you.
I am a coward when it comes to video games, and I try to push through it as much as I can. And I just got to a point where it was scary, and there was another game that looked really fun. I went on to that game, and I just never came back to Resident Evil 8.
No, I don't blame you at all. I mean, especially the second section, like, is some of the most messed up stuff I've ever seen. Like, period.
Have either of you? This is a question from somebody who is not a big horror fan, for whom it took several years and attempts to get into like and beat Dead Space. And I think I actually had to buy the DLC military armor to like give me enough health and defense to like steel my nerves to play this game. But then I was able to beat it, and I almost got the platinum, except for the stupid turret sections on hard mode. I couldn't get past that. But for somebody who's gone through that and then who has watched Outlast, like how does that compare with like how freaky this is?
Outlast is a different kind of scary. I don't know if you agree, Mitch. Like I feel like Outlast is very jump scary. Like it's almost like a Five Nights at Freddy's thing. Whereas Resident Evil has jump scares, but it's a lot more atmospheric. It's a lot more of like the place that you're in. And all of those places are very different. I only played Outlast maybe once or twice, but I remember it being very, like night cam, green, and very, very similar throughout. Resident Evil has a lot of diversity in it. In terms of the enemies.
It's also different. Like Resident Evil 8, I think this is one of the positives about Resident Evil 8. It's that it kind of takes a lot of things that other Resident Evil games have done in terms of like the type of fear. Like there's the thrill kind of, the intensity kind of fear that Resident Evil 4 really brought to the table. There's the dread of being stalked by someone fear that Resident Evil 7 brought to the table. Whereas Outlast is really just that atmosphere and dread kind of fear, along with some jump scares.
It's more like it's more messed up.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Different types of horror, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Josh, what's one of your big picks?
I have to be like Chris and say I'm actively playing it right now, so I don't have like a fully formed opinion on it, but I'm really enjoying Tales of Arise. It's the first Tales game I've played since Symphonia back on the GameCube, which was the only other one I'd played. So it's like totally different. But what I really like about it is that like it doesn't do anything, I would say, like incredible. It doesn't move the bar in any way, like narrative, visually, gameplay. Like it is like a JRPG, but it's like it does everything so well that it's hard to find like faults with it. Like there are a couple little things in it that I think I would like tweak or change, but other than that, it's like, do you want an incredibly super well polished, very pretty anime action game that has like a little bit anime bingo card story, but like at the same time is still pretty good, like
bingo card story, I love it.
Yeah, like I don't dislike the story. I find it engaging. It moves along, right? But it just does everything so well. It's well paced. The UI design is excellent. Character design's really good. Just has all these little like things. The actual like gameplay loop and the way that it keeps going is just like really solid. The way that it lets you sort of like control how much or how little story you want throughout the game with these things called like reminiscing, I guess is what they're called, which are like little mini comic book cutscenes, which will give you like a bunch of context into the world, or like conversations between the characters that normally wouldn't quite like fit, in anywhere else, because they're just sort of like little things. But if you're really into the world and want to know more, then you can engage with those. And if you don't really care, you don't have to engage with them at all. You can just keep going,
Are those like the things where, like in Final Fantasy IX, like where you're just going along and it's like press select if you want this extra scene or whatever, and it's just people talking or
sure,
or whatever.
It sounds like it. I think 9 is one of my blind spots. So, but yeah, it's a lot like that, where you just get these little extra scenes between characters where they just talk about stuff, and like you can totally ignore them and stuff. But all that to say, I just think it's a game that doesn't do anything radically new, but everything that it does is done so well, and at the peak of what it can be, that everything just feels super well polished, and you're left like very satisfied. Is what
really
I'll say. It's like the most solid 8 you'll ever play. Like you'll play it and you'll be like, this isn't moving mountains or like doing anything, but damn, like it's doing it really well.
It's a really good one of these
from last year, I think. Like in just a lot
It's
of
like when
different genres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you go out to dinner and you eat it, it's not the greatest meal you ever had, but when you're done, you're like, man, I am like satisfied and full. You know, I don't feel like I'm going to die. I don't feel like I'm still hungry.
That
I
wasn't
feel
the best
good.
meal I've ever had, but god damn it, am I full?
You know, it was very good.
I'm glad we came to the Olive Garden today.
I was just about to say.
God, no, not.
I was just about to say, I ate 3 baskets of those breadsticks, and
The
God
soup,
damn it,
salad,
I'm
and
full of
breadsticks
shit.
was a good choice.
Yeah.
Those breadsticks were pretty damn good, but Olive Garden overall was not, you know, the peak of cuisine or anything.
It's not?
The key is when you get that basket, when they bring that basket to you and they set it down on the table, you look inside and you see, are any of these motherfuckers floppy? Because that one is going to be the best one in the bag. I'm telling you right
sure?
now.
I thought you were going to say you send it back.
Nobody likes a
No.
crouton stick.
No. If they're, exactly.
Yeah.
They're not the ones that are floppy. Oh man, they're so juicy. They got all the
But you
stuff
don't
on
want
top.
it to be like, but you don't want it to, you don't want it to be a crouton, but you also don't want it to be like
A
dough,
wet noodle.
right? You want it to be like,
you don't want it to be
you want the
not done.
You want it to be like when you get like a real croissant, like not one from, you know, like Starbucks, which those are good, but you know, you get like a real one where the outside is like this like glassy shell and then inside it's that
You crack
warm...
into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is my cookie theory also. When you get a cookie, it should be crispy on the outside and then you bite into it and it's gooey on the inside. Same thing with a breadstick, my friends.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Platformers, the internet's #1 Olive Garden podcast.
Hey, we do make a lot of
your family.
when you hear you hate each other. We do make a lot of food analogies.
Yeah. And podcasts within podcasts.
Yeah.
Yes, very true. It's very true.
Brian.
Man. Okay, I'll talk about one that is not gonna get any of my awards, but that I really, really liked. And this is one that I am currently playing. And that is Forza Horizon 5. I don't have a lot to say about this one. It feels really, really good to play. I actually jumped around. Chris actually was like, hey, check out this Hot Wheels Unleashed. I actually like this more. And so I actually got, I got a copy of that, and I was playing it, and I found it to be a bit too fiddly. Like it's been a long time since I've played Gran Turismo. It's been a long time since I've played Forza Motorsport. And I think I'm kind of done with sim racers. And I think I'm kind of done with anything racing that is not just easy. That's not just a warm bath for me to hop into. You know what I mean? Like, and so when I was playing Hot Wheels Unleashed, it was like, okay, if I don't take this turn right, or if I hit this like ramp wrong, I'm going to launch like totally off the track, and it's going to be a huge problem and a pain in the butt, and I'm going to need to rewind and teleport back to the track, and I'm going to be way behind, and everybody's going to be ahead of me. It's just going to be a problem. With Forza, it's just easy. Like, and like everything that it does, it's, you know, it's like what Josh was talking about. Like, I'm not even a racing guy, but everything this game does is just great. Like, it feels great to, you know, drift behind somebody and, you know, overtake them at the corners. Like the kind of smart pathfinding is like incredibly good. I'm really excited. You know, Phil Spencer has said that they've looked at the DualSense and said that like that level of feedback is something that they're interested in kind of looking into. I can't wait to play something like Forza Horizon 5 with the Xbox equivalent of the DualSense, because, you know, having played like Dirt 5 was just on PS Plus. I played a bit of that. The DualSense functionality in that game is awesome. So like a game as expansive and as kind of, you know, approach it on your own terms as Forza Horizon 5 is just such a great, fun sandbox to play in. And as somebody who like doesn't really like racing games are not a destination for me anymore. Unless it's like a kart race around I'm with friends. But this is the most like, if the mood strikes you, like just jump into this one, because this is basically as good as it gets. So you know, obviously won IGN's Game of the Year, which I super respect. But like, as somebody who's only like maybe 1 or 2 hours in, like, it still made a huge impression on me. And I incredibly like I mean, shout out to all the racing fans out there because you guys are eating very well right now. But yeah, that's that. Let's return in the rotation to Mitch. What's another one? What's another one that you really liked?
Let's talk about Halo Infinite.
Yes, let's do.
The time has come.
The time has come to talk about Halo.
I would put that on my list as well. I actually think we
probably all did. Yeah.
This is on my short list. Yeah.
Yeah. Halo. Halo is a big part. I imagine for all of us, it was a big part of my like formative years coming up through like high school and college and playing multiplayer with friends. And like ever since, I want to say like Halo 3, I think I probably put the most hours into Halo 3's multiplayer, playing with friends, playing online.
Same.
And ever since that, I've kind of been like waiting for a Halo game to really grab me like Halo 3 did. All the way back in whatever year Halo 3 came out, I don't remember.
It was like 2007, I think.
Yeah. And Halo Infinite did that. Like Halo Infinite really finds that balance of old school Halo and modern sensibilities in the form of like the I think the equipment that you can pick up it's great. The variety of weapons is so damn good in this game. I can't speak highly enough of how good the arsenal of weapons is in Halo Infinite.
The new guns are good too, like the disruptor and the electric gun. Like
there is no gun
the electric gun could be an entire episode. I do not get why everyone likes that gun. I fucking hate it.
Which one, the shock rifle or the disruptor?
Dude, the shock rifle will literally
is one hit kill.
Yeah, it's a one hit kill. If you shoot somebody with a headshot, even through their shields.
Not only that,
you assume I can hit people,
but you can also take out vehicles with it.
Yeah,
also I'm aware of that, and that's fine. Like,
all right,
that's why people like it, Josh.
That's fine. That's fine when it happens, but every other moment, I'm like, oh, good God, give me literally anything else.
Wow,
do you not see why people like shot grenades? Like,
oh, I like the shot grenades too.
That shit is awesome.
I hate that gun.
Halo 3 came out in 2007.
Okay,
Thank you.
Hey, I got it right.
Hey, Josh gets
year.
But yeah, like it's a crazy thing. I think that I can play Halo Infinite and there's not like a moment where I'm like upset about my loadout. Like regardless of what if I find a needler, I'm like, all right, great, I'm gonna be badass from like this specific range.
Slaps.
Oh great, I got a disruptor. I can put 5 bullets into a guy, run away, and the damage over time will do some work on him. Yeah. Like every weapon has its very specific use where it's like amazing. It's amazing at specific ranges. It's amazing at certain situations. That's just like I can't even think of another arena style shooter that has that feeling.
You know what? That actually reminds me. It's like somebody made a first-person shooter with the same ideas that go into fighting game. It's like, okay, if you're here, this is the answer. This is what you do. If you're coming around a corner, like you want to have a shotgun, you want to have this. If you're in this range, you want to have the needler, and people are not going to be able to escape. Like, I like that. Like, it's very there, and I feel like this is definitely really true, particularly when you compare it to like Halo 4 and 5, which had like the Promethean weapons, which were basically just doubles of all the UNSC weapons and didn't really have a functional, like differentiating purpose. Now it feels like, okay, we got rid of the chaff. It's all wheat here, baby.
Yeah,
we got
except
stuff.
The one there is one gun that I'm like, and not the electric gun, that I'm like, what have you done to my son? This thing is terrible.
The shotgun?
Shotgun?
No, the shotgun actually I've come around a little bit on, but I still would prefer the old shotgun. The freaking Covenant pistol is awful.
Oh, the
plasma pistol?
It's awful. It's absolutely awful.
It's only meant for charging up and taking down a shield.
Even then, I feel like I miss And even then, I'm like, this thing has fallen. Like
that
this
gun
thing
has
used
never
to
been
be
that good though.
Oh,
No,
there was
you're
a
wrong.
time where like there was a meta. There was
Really?
like the
Halo 2. It was the
the
meta
plasma
in Halo
pistol
2.
and Magnum meta was
Oh, I
flat.
guess when you could dual wield, yeah.
It was plasma pistol and battle rifle in Halo 2. It's called it's noob combo.
I keep waiting for them to the noob combo.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because it's like it's like a
people,
super advanced kind of strategy. Like to think of like, charging something up and then hitting someone with the one shot and then having to switch weapons and hit one more bullet. Like that's not a noob strategy.
You're gambling.
It's just because it was easy to learn and it made your skill go up like
that's
super quickly. Yeah.
You kill somebody really, really fast. But I think that the interesting thing is like 343 thought of that, because as you're charging the plasma pistol, it reduces the amount of ammo that you have.
Yeah.
So you can't just sit there running around with a charged pistol forever, because you're going to run out of ammo and then it's going to be it,
Also makes a lot of noise.
yeah, it does.
Yeah. And people can see it from a mile away.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think the other thing I just want to touch on is like the interactions between the different pieces of equipment that you can get, like the feeling of making a big play is so pervasive in every match of Halo Infinite's multiplayer. Like, being able to get a grappling hook and being able to grapple onto a Banshee and steal it right from under them. The ability to reflect grenades or a rocket launcher back at them. It's just, there's so many opportunities for big like endorphin rushing kind of moments. It's so good. And then you talk about move on to like the campaign really quickly. I thought the campaign was the best Halo has been in terms of a gameplay perspective, mainly because of the grapple hook.
You had the best tweet about it though.
What was my tweet? I don't remember.
You had a tweet that said, because I agreed 1,000% with you, where you said, I love Halo Infinite so far, but the first mission has been the best part of it, where you're going through that like really linear, the ship is exploding and things like that. And it was like, I hope that there's more moments like this. And there weren't that many. Yeah.
There weren't that many. Yeah.
If at all.
I mean, we talked about that in our spoiler cast too, where we're like, all the coolest things happened in holograms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucked. Yeah.
The way I described when I got to play Halo Infinite early, and the way I described it to people was like, imagine that the cliffhanger of Halo 5. I went ahead. Imagine there was Halo 5, which had a cliffhanger. Halo 6 happened, but we don't get to play it.
Yep.
And Halo Infinite is all about learning about what happened in Halo 6.
Yes.
That's exactly.
Yeah, this is Halo 7 basically.
Yeah.
My friend was like, "Oh, now that like the new trilogy is done," and I was like, "I wouldn't call it that." And he was like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Not in any way, shape, or form."
No.
Yeah. You were speaking about just fun, awesome gameplay moments happening. I had almost the play of the fucking century, and I was so heartbroken. Like, I had a grappling hook, and this guy was in a Warthog alone, and he was in the cannon just shooting at people. I literally went up, I got in it, and I started driving it off the cliff because I was like, I'm going to jump out, let this fly off the cliff within a minute, and I'm going to grapple back. I did that, but he noticed, and he jumped out, and I was like,
no,
man.
I thought I was going to be so great, and it was so sad, but that is...
I have had moments like
Halo,
that,
baby.
I have had moments like that where I stole the Warthog and drove it off a cliff and killed the guy in there, but I did not make it back.
Yeah, same.
It's still a good moment.
Yeah.
Or like, when I'm flying around in a Wasp and somebody approaches me in a Banshee and I jump out of my ship, grapple to their ship, and kick them out over the edge so they just fall into the abyss. I love it. And like stories like this happen all the time in Halo Infinite. So like if you're into the multiplayer, like this is the gift that keeps on giving. And I absolutely agree with Mitch that like this is definitely on my short list. And while I feel like there were still some missed opportunities, I really wish that we hadn't had so much of the story and so much of like the load bearing events happen off screen that we actually got to participate in them. because I would have loved that as somebody who like I played Halo 4, I played Halo 5. You know, I didn't love it, but like I would have loved to see the resolution. And a lot of Halo Infinite is basically like, hey, forget all that stuff that happened. We're gonna do something else. You know, which is like fine and it satisfies a certain type of person, but like I feel like they, with their story, they did kind of make good on what came before, and I just wish we would have gotten to see it. But you know, I say that as you know, as Mitch pointed out, like somebody for whom Halo has been like a big part of my gaming life for a very long time. So, but I definitely echo what he said. Like Halo Infinite, like as far as gameplay is concerned, is like some of the best first-person shooting we've ever gotten. Maybe.
Yeah,
so,
I would agree.
I do want to just add one final nugget there, and that's I notoriously do not play multiplayer games. Like to the point where I'm like, why do I even have PlayStation Plus? I probably don't need it anymore, but I paid for it for like the next 4 years. This is the only multiplayer game that I have played this year, and other than Mario Kart 8. And I keep coming back to it, and that alone should say something.
Yeah. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
This game has actually converted my wife from a primarily single-player / co-op Halo player to almost exclusively a multiplayer Halo player.
Ranked.
Which like, yeah, she was playing ranked. She was literally playing ranked arena when I came up from my office earlier.
That's amazing.
Which is like ridiculous. I literally came up the stairs. She was like, "Do not walk in front of me. Do not try to talk to me." And then she was like, and then she captured the flag and won the match. And it was like, all right.
Wow. She's gonna be on MLG before you know it.
So, all right, Chris.
Good pick.
Excellent pick.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pick one that no one else is gonna pick probably, and no one else is gonna care, but. I love this game so much, and I've talked about it many times on the show. That is Swarm. No, Banjo-Kazooie again. Behold. No, Swarm on the Oculus Quest is it's Resogun in 3D, and you're Spider-Man with guns. Like I don't know how much better of a pitch I can give you than that. That game has such a good flow to it. And I could play it for what I think is 5 minutes, and it ends up being 5 hours until the headset dies. It is one that many people that even play the Quest or use the Quest don't really talk about, or like don't really know about. I guess I should say it's a smaller studio that developed it, but it I constantly find myself go back to it. They keep adding content to it. And it's just a great arcade shooter in first person that it doesn't feel like anything else I've ever played. It I shouldn't even say that. It combines elements of a lot of different things that I love into an experience that I've never had before. And I just think it's very special for that. So yeah, Swarm is one hell of a game from this year.
I remember seeing trailers of this game and thinking that, wow, this looks amazing. What the hell is this?
Yeah.
But I never got to actually play it. It's a single player game, yeah? Or is it a multiplayer kind of?
So it's single player. You go through like 5 different like worlds, and then there's like different stages in each one. But I know they've added like different courses and things throughout that, but I haven't hopped into any of that just yet. But
well, I'm gonna. My big problem with VR is like finding space for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a Quest. As soon as I find a way to be able to play VR games in a comfortable way, I am definitely gonna check this out because it looks amazing.
Yeah, and I will say, like, if you anybody that doesn't know what it is, if you look at gameplay and you go, oh my god, I'm gonna throw up if I play this, like, you won't. I don't know how. Everyone that I know that has played it has been like, I expected to get sick, and like never once did I have motion sickness. And you're literally like spinning around in different directions and like going all over the place, and somehow it feels natural, and it almost feels like a natural extension of your body, and it just works. I don't know how to describe it. But it's that feeling of, you know, web slinging like Spider-Man. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Joshy boy.
Josh next.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Well, I would have said Halo, but
Oh, sorry.
no, it's fine.
I mean, yeah, and I would have talked about Halo as well. Like, I think everybody would have talked about Halo. That was a good place to talk about it.
I don't know if expansion packs count, so
Sure, yeah, why not?
I don't know, whatever. I was gonna say Endwalker for Final Fantasy 14, since it's like pretty much the only game I've played for the last year. I finished it, and it was very interesting seeing one of what I would consider one of the best Final Fantasy stories, and in like this really big way, and the game's now bigger than ever, and just I don't know. It was an interesting thing, and I look forward to more of it. And even though I've finished it, I'm still playing it like every freaking day because I'm raiding and you know, doing all the there's so much crap to do in that game. There's always like little events, and I don't know. It's like such a crazy testament to think about when that game launched almost 10 years ago. Just how crappy it was. And now you look at it and it's pretty much the most successful MMO in the world at this point now. So much so that people are struggling to get in, and they're opening new world servers in the next like week and stuff just to try and like move people around.
Stuff. Or like we're like,
yeah,
you can't buy
did they
this.
really?
Coming back next week.
Wow.
It's coming back, but they have warned that if it continues to be bad, they will take it down again.
Wow.
But I think on the 25th you'll be able to buy it again.
Yeah,
they're adding Oceania, and what's funny about that is originally they were going to launch Oceania with just 3 worlds, and then launch the up to 5 like later. And recently they said, yeah, fuck that, we're going to launch Oceania next week. All 5 are going up. Like, please move there. Like, for the love of God. Like, if you're, you know, they're like giving people incentives to move over there and stuff. It's so funny just because the queues have been so nuts. Yeah,
I've been talking to Ronnie about that, and like we've been playing fighting games like Guilty Gear and Dragon Ball, and he's like, "Yep, I've been in this queue for like 5 hours, so you know if I."
I never had a 5 hour. I think I had 3 at one point.
John, who watches, was in one for 12 at one point.
Oh my god!
I don't know how. Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane.
The worst it got for me, it would be like 2 p.m. and I know that my friends and I would want to play that night, and it's like, well, I better turn it on now so that I can play at like 5:30.
It's like literally that Seinfeld sketch where like
the shower thing.
Jerry has Elaine like house sitting for him, and it's like, all right, so here's what you want to do. You start the shower up, you get the hot water going, you go out, you do all your shopping, you come home, and it's going to be ready for you.
Pretty
it's
much.
Like totally ridiculous.
It's not as bad now, and we've found, it's funny, my friends and I have found like peak times for when to log in. Like if you log in at 9 a.m., there'll be like 16 people. And you're like, right in, you know? But if you try to log in at like 5 p.m., like you're going to wait for a little while.
Good luck.
So we try to game it and stuff, especially on Tuesdays, because raid reset happens in Pandemonium, which is the new raid. It's been out for like 2 weeks. People are like grinding it very heavily, so everyone gets on Tuesdays to like get their raid stuff going, and like the queues are even worse. So it's like, you want to play, like do an extra hour ahead of time or whatever.
But plan your life out.
Seriously. Yeah. That's quite the commitment.
Hopefully it gets better. But all that to say, it is a fantastic game, and it's I would say a triumph. It wasn't my favorite expansion of all the storylines, but it was still interesting to just see how far the game has come and how they capped off this, like, because they said this was the end of like their first big arc, which started back when A Realm Reborn started. So they've ended this full like story and everything, and now they're like, now we're gonna do a new story and see where that goes. Yeah. And I think also it has out of all the games this year, it has the highest user reviews on Metacritic or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Of like everything, which is nuts. But yeah, Endwalker, catch the fever.
It is. I feel like it is the game that I see the most people on my Twitter feed talking about that had the least amount of idea about.
Yeah.
Wow. Universal acclaim based on 1,225 ratings. It has a 9.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the Metascore is 92. Metacritic
That's also super impressive, I feel like, considering the fact that there are these notoriously long queue times. Like,
yeah, you'd think people would be review bombing it or something.
Yeah, but people are it's weird. Like, people are actually understanding of developer issues for this game.
Yeah. Well, also on top of that, like, there's so much goodwill around like the game director and stuff, and he writes these long posts that are literally like, he's like, straight up, I'm going to tell you what's wrong. Like, and so when they took it off the market, like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about why they had to do this. They were saying like, we ordered servers months ago, like more servers. They're like, we have more servers because we have more people playing the game than ever before. And he's like, the chip shortage, he's like, we literally do not have the raw materials needed to build more servers to house all you dorks.
There's 3 networking guys in a data center running cable, just like labeling everything.
Yeah.
We're just waiting for the day.
Yeah. So they've been trying to, like, they announced the Oceania server like a year ago. That's how long it's been. And it's finally launching, which will finally at least take some of the pressure off a lot of servers. I hope some off North America, but I don't have any faith in that. I feel like it's going to take a lot off Japan and Europe, but we'll see, man. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just the goodwill and the developers being like super upfront with like what's happening, and like they're very communicative. They do a lot of streams and a lot of like fun things and stuff. So I think it's just a different vibe. I mean, there are dicks, right? But I would say it's a different vibe over there for the most part.
Harry in the chat goes, the lack of raw materials sounds like the most Final Fantasy thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough out there. You can't get graphics cards.
Yeah.
Can't build servers.
It's rough. It took me some doing to get one for myself.
Can't buy a car. Apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's up to me. I am going to talk about something that's not going to win either of my game awards, but is something that I was very happy to see. And that is Metroid Dread. Josh and Chris have had to listen to me whine and complain about them not making Super Metroid 2 for years.
Literally since the day I met you.
Yeah, basically. I was like, where's my new Final Fantasy Tactics? Where's my new Baldur's Gate? Where's my new Metroid? And now Baldur's Gate 3 is in early access, and we got Metroid Dread. So I'm looking at you, Square. Bring back Final Fantasy Tactics. But yeah, Metroid Dread did a lot of good things. It did a lot of good things. It is, when you're controlling Samus, when you're jumping around that world, when you're exploring, I think it is basically the best it's ever felt. I feel a lot of the same ways about Metroid Dread as I do about Halo Infinite. With one big exception, which I'll get into shortly. Jumping around, like, wall jumping off of things, charging, doing all the special abilities that Samus has now, whether that is, your like teleport style air dashes, these sorts of things, new abilities that were introduced in this game, like Storm Missile and like all these different things. Like, I really applaud what Mercury Steam did with this. Their glow up between Metroid Samus Returns and this is significant, because one of the biggest criticisms I had with Metroid Samus Returns on 3DS when I reviewed that is they really shove the parry mechanic down your throat. And I feel like Dread really addresses that. It's like, hey, this is going to make it easier and going to make killing enemies way, way faster. You're still totally fine if you don't want to engage in it. Like, if you don't want this, not a problem.
They also give you enough missiles where you absolutely don't have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is.
You
still...
do have to use it in certain fights, though.
You do.
It's literally the
boss
only
fights,
way to
yes.
finish off certain
That's
fights.
That's true.
In boss fights, yes. Although I do think it's funny watching speedrunners how they don't actually parry because, particularly like the first boss at least, if you ignore the parry things and you just do the missiles, it's actually faster than watching that whole animation, which I think is really funny. But yeah, for most fights, like you really do need to use it. But like with regular enemies, like you're not going to run into a bat and just be like, I'm basically not going to be able to get past this place if I don't want to get hit 5 times without parrying this stupid idiot.
Sure.
And I like that. They added more flexibility. They've improved on that formula significantly. And I think that they should really be applauded for that. I really just find the Emmy sections just unacceptable. And I know that I'm definitely like, and I will say, what was it, man? Was it you, Mitch, who was just like, yeah, I just like run through, like, who cares? Yeah. So I followed your advice on my second playthrough, and that made it way better. And I don't know whether I was just like trying to follow the, what I felt like the developers were trying to tell me, which is, embrace stealth and embrace this cloaking ability and stuff like that. But once I started to just be like, fuck it, I'm just sprinting through this stuff, it was way, way better. I do still feel like the damage balance on the bosses is like off, particularly when you run into bosses like SQ. Like they just deal too much damage, and you just don't have enough health. I just feel like it just needs to be tweaked just a little bit. But it is still a really good thing, and I think it bodes well for the future of Metroid. It just didn't quite make the cut for the kind of highest echelons of what 2021 offered. So
I don't know how you want to do this, but Metroid Dread is my Critic Choice Award.
Oh, snap.
Wow.
Yeah, if you want to go into that now, yeah, we can.
I don't have anymore, so.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything you said about like, this is the best Samus has ever felt moving around the world, which is good because a lot of what Metroid is all about is moving across the world. Yeah, I said before that the games that stick with me for end of the year stuff are usually the ones that push the genre forward. I don't think Metroid Dread really pushes the Metroidvania genre forward, but what I think it is like the pinnacle of this specific style of Metroidvania, the one that Metroid really pioneered. You're gonna hate me for this, Brian, but I think Metroid Dread is a better Metroid game than Super Metroid.
If I hadn't already dealt with so many other people saying that, I would be more angry. But to me, it's just it definitely comes down to a lot of the sticking points that a lot of people have with Super Metroid, I don't have. And maybe that's just because I'm so inundated and so familiar with it that like, I know that that's what it is.
Yeah, I think that's probably true because I'm not super familiar with Super Metroid. I played it when I was a kid. I played it. Honestly, I probably played the most I played it was probably at like hotels where they had like video game consoles and you can play SNES games.
Or like a plane, like on those monitors at the back of the plane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for like the kids out there, hotels used to have like little game consoles that you could play sometimes for like a small price. You could like rent a game to play in your room.
And it was for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
To pay, yeah.
And I would play a lot of Super Nintendo games through it. Then I came back to Super Metroid, kind of like as an adult. And man, Super Metroid, if you don't know where you're going, that game does not like clue you into the path that you need to go to in an elegant way, which is something that I think Metroid Dread does a really, really good job of. Its map system is really, really good. Honestly, I think one of the best maps I've played I've used in a Metroidvania. I think the progression of your powers is really, really good. The way this game makes you feel like a badass is just
Yes.
so fucking good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I can swear.
Yeah,
but-
you can. You absolutely can.
I've been swearing this whole episode. You can say whatever you want. I definitely agree with that, and I think that Samus is way more of a badass in this game than in previous ones, and they show it to you, which I think is really, really great. Like
it's the cinematography of it. It's like in that fight where I don't remember the name of it. It's like one of the first bosses you fight
with Kraid, right?
No, not well. Kraid is cool too.
Yeah,
but it's before Kraid. There's like this shot of like Samus walks around really slowly. She's just like looking.
That's the first boss, the invisible boss. Yeah,
and then just like they make a move. Samus jumps through the hole in the tail and then just blasts him. Oh my god, it's so cool.
That's the first boss. Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely awesome. This game gives her so much great characterization, and I feel like where it's a little weird what it does with the story, but I think it's good enough, and there's enough there to really be able to kind of revel in how badass she is and how badass the game and the developers make you feel with how you play her. And I think the boss fights are like some of the best around. Particularly like as ridiculous as it is, I love the experiment boss fight. They got you playing Flappy Bird halfway through. But like, even though like I wish that like the bosses did like, maybe like half to 2/3 the amount of damage that they do, and I wish that you had like more health. I feel like
it's tough.
It's just tuned. It's a little bit too much. But other than that, like when you play the final boss fight, and you're just like, damn it, like I cannot beat this guy, and then you do it, and like it is bringing that Dark Souls like mastery, that Mega Man like mastery, to a Metroid game, where it's like, okay, I got my teeth kicked in for 5 rounds, and now I beat it, and I got hit like one time, like, and it feels so good. And this is the game. I think there's only really one fight in Metroid, in Super Metroid, that does that for me every time. Like every time I fight Ridley in Super Metroid, it's like, man, I hope I got this. Like this dude is tough, And almost every fight in Metroid Dread is that way, and I like that is very laudable. Like as much as I have issues, there are like particular sticking points that I think keep it from the heights of where Super Metroid gets to. It does so much right and so much best in series that like it's probably my second favorite Metroid game ever. Like it's very close behind Super Metroid. And if it wasn't for like the Emmy sections and like how ridiculously hard the bosses hit you, like it would probably be there for me as well.
Yeah, I didn't really have too much of a problem with the Emmy sections. I think it is one of those things I happened upon the solution, I think, faster than you. And I appreciated them because I think they offer a nice break in there's a lot of different styles of play in Metroid Dread. There's just general platforming, just exploring through the world. There's combat. There's a mesh of combat and platforming, and then there's these Emmy sections where it's completely different than anything you've done in the other parts of the game, and you have to play it a little bit differently. And they are intense. Like it's cool. It's a cool feeling to
it's that Mr. X feeling.
Yeah,
from RE2.
Yeah, but it's just like it's really cool to feel like you're gonna get caught. To just stand still, activate cloak, and watch the Emmy just like kind of walk right up to you, stop, look around, and then turn around. It's just a really, really cool feeling. And then with regards to like the way or how hard the bosses hit, I feel like there's a deliberate choice in the difficulty balancing of Metroid Dread, where I think once you figure a boss out, the ways to avoid getting hit aren't that hard. I feel like once you understand what the boss is going to do, it's pretty easy to avoid the damage. But if you make a mistake, it's punishing. And I kind of appreciate that, especially because I never felt like I was getting I was like really punished for dying. Like the checkpoints are always pretty generous. And yeah, I enjoyed the challenge of like, just going back to a boss, getting a little further, dying, going back to a boss, getting a little further, dying, and then just having that run where it all clicks. So yeah, Metroid Dread I think is my personal pick for like, just critically the best game I've played for 2021.
And I will say, I said all of that stuff. Metroid Dread is one of the very few games on this list that I've beaten twice. Like I did my first playthrough and then I did my 100% playthrough. So it's
you can like a game if it has problems.
Yeah, and I do.
What? You're allowed to criticize the things you love.
Yeah,
we did that. Just listen to our Halo Infinite spoiler cast.
It's very true.
Do you have a minute to spare about Banjo
Tooie?
Yeah.
We were very critical of that game, and then we just sang its praises. Also.
Did you, Mitch? Did you want to talk about another game? I know that you were just jumping onto the Metroid.
No, I mean, I was going to talk about Metroid.
Okay.
It's my critic award. Otherwise, I wouldn't have jumped on your pick. But just because I felt like I would have talked about it anyway, it felt good to talk about it while you were talking about it.
For sure.
Yeah, we can move on to Chris.
All right.
Sure. Yeah.
I am going to. I have a lot here. I'm not going to go through everyone. I'll drop. I'll honorable drop just because I don't want to run too long in the tooth. I'm going to honorable drop Super Mario 3D World, but it's a remake.
Hell yeah.
Everybody's played that game. It's like one of the best multiplayer games we've ever had. If you have a Switch, you should absolutely play it, especially if you have someone to play with. I'm going to leave it at that.
Second best 3D Mario game of all time.
Yes.
I'm just going to put it
Whoa, hold on a second. No, 3D World's good.
Yeah. No, Brian will like die on the hill that 3D Land is the best one.
3D Land is the best 3D Mario game.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, I was talking to a friend of the show and former guest host, Will Berger, about this, and he agreed with me 100%.
You and Will agreed on something?
We did.
Hold on a second. This is the most amazing thing I've heard on this podcast.
Super Mario 3D Land is is one of the only games, and is the game that does it best, adapting the 2D Mario formula to 3D. Mario Odyssey is a different thing. Super Mario 64 is a different thing. Mm-hmm. But if you were like, hey, I want to take the things that make 2D Mario games great and put it in 3D, Super Mario 3D Land and Super Mario 3D World are the ones that do that. They are levels where I'm trying to get through a short, very particularly curated. You can tell I've been drinking. Particularly crafted level. Particularly, I'm trying to get to this short, like very well crafted level quickly and get the power-ups and do all that sort of shit. 3D Land and 3D World do that in a way that no other 3D Mario games do. And that is why I say they are the best Mario games, because I feel like they're the only real games that capture that same spirit and the things that those make that game good. But anyway, so then Bowser's Fury came out, and it's like a totally different
It's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I am going to drop, which was tied for my Critics' Choice Game of the Year, because you could absolutely make an argument for it. I know of an outlet that recently gave it their Game of the Year. And that is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. It is a near perfect game.
Wait, who gave this Goaty?
Kind of funny, actually.
Oh, really?
Because the way that their voting system worked, they all had it like so high, and then it won, and they all were kind of like, oh, like that's
where it was like it was everybody's second place, and so it just won.
Yep.
Wow. like wow, maybe our system is flawed.
Yeah. No, I mean it's it does so many things so well. It's the best that Ratchet & Clank has ever played. It's the best it's ever looked. You could argue it's Insomniac's best game, I think. It's such a great showcase of the PS5. And it was a game that when it came out, like, anyone who had a PS5 that was starved after, playing Returnal and getting so upset with it in March and April, when this came out, it was just like a breath of fresh air. It was like it's super accessible, and it's just a fun space to be in. It's always fun to revisit these characters, and I had a ton of fun with it. I got the platinum trophy. I always love whenever my wife Jess and I get really, really sucked into the same games, and like it was a game that we both were able to talk about, and we both had our own experiences with it, and bond over that. It's just it's a phenomenal game, like top to bottom. There are some things in it in terms of specifically with like when you're gathering collectibles, that they don't do that great of a job at, where it could be like, oh, there's a gold bolt over here, or there's like whatever like the gem things are, like they're off in an area, and then you go to get to that area and you realize you can't get to it, and it's like, oh, I have to come back to this later. I wish that was a little more obvious to the player. Like I wish they just wouldn't show those things if you can't get to them. But other than that, I mean, it's funny, it's charming, and the weapons are awesome. Like it's a great experience all around. Catch the Fever.
Oh, it gets your Catch the Fever award.
Yeah, dude, Ratchet & Clank is
Excellent.
awesome. Love that game.
Mitch, I don't know if you're aware of this, but this is the Catch the Fever award is kind of like the Editor's Choice Award of the Platformers podcast. So
Cool.
Josh said it once, and we just kind of ran with it.
We just kind of embraced it.
I think I got it from like American Dad or something, but
Sure.
I don't know.
We'll take it. Who cares? Who cares?
Just
Stars
kidding.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Josh, what's another one for you?
I don't know if I have any like other just honorable mentions. I have like my choice for what I would say was game of the year, and then I have one that like I really wanted to love, but gets my heart basically.
We can
so I
we
can
can
go
start,
through one of those.
Yeah, we can start our final two loops, and then we
Yeah.
can basically mention if we've got, because I've got a bunch of like honorable mentions that I want to just shout out so that people will know. But I guess I'm just gonna have to decide what gets my awards because I haven't decided yet.
Okay. Well, I'll just say it. I would say my Critic award, what I think was the best game this year was Loop Hero.
Ooh.
It was
Oh
like,
my god, yes!
What a way to take a bunch of concepts from a bunch of different games and make something just completely new and completely and utterly addictive to the point where you're like, oh, just one more level, like one more loop, like all the time, and you're like tweaking your stuff. I think I put like a good like 100 hours into Loop Hero, and I didn't even beat the game. Like,
Wow.
it's pretty stellar. It's an amazing thing. And I think if you haven't played this game, like I'm like, what are you waiting for, dude? Like, you need to get on it because it's so.
It's on Switch too. Like you can have it with you.
Yeah, I think it just came to Switch, right? So, which is like perfect. It's not a game that you really need to pay super close attention to, but like you will. I think you'll do better if you do. But like you don't have to be like looking at it every 2 seconds. But like it has just.
It's like the perfect podcast game. Like you just have it on.
Yeah.
You're listening to a podcast. You're listening to the Platformers podcast, and you're playing Loop Hero.
Specifically, no other podcast will give you the exact thing
just
you're
won't
looking
hit
for.
right.
It's like cheese and wine.
Right.
We've specifically crafted each episode of the Platformers to perfectly pair with Loop Hero.
To just hit real good with Loop Hero. Yeah.
It goes especially well with Olive Garden.
That's very true. Get yourself a nice bowl of breadsticks. Get yourself a Platformers podcast and fire up Loop Hero.
Man, I could go for a bowl of their breadsticks right now. I'll tell you
No
what.
joke,
But
man. That salad's no joke either.
they
Also,
have good
fun
salad.
fact, just
Soup.
quick aside about Olive Garden. What I used to do when I went with my family, because when we lived in California, we used to go like all the time.
There are a lot
was-
less here now.
I would go there, and then they would be, and this is so dumb because I hadn't even seen Parks and Rec yet. But you know that scene where oh my god, what's his name? Ron.
Yeah.
Where he walks in and he's like, "Bring me all of the bacon and eggs, or bring me all the bacon that you have."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hold on, because I feel like you may not have understood me. Bring me all of the bacon that you have." Like, so we would go into the Olive Garden, and we would of course get the chips and breadsticks and stuff like that. And I would order, "Bring me the largest bowl of macaroni and cheese that you have." And they would bring me, like, no joke, a bowl this big of macaroni and cheese. It was amazing.
My God.
Dip the breadsticks in that, shit was off the chain. Anyway, that's all I got to say about Olive Garden right now.
Anyway, Loop Hero is an amazing game that you should play. It has like all this depth that you at first don't see because you're just like, why am I watching this little guy run around a road like over and over again? And then you start building the map out and you start to see like, oh, the more of this I build, then there's like fucking gargoyles, which are a huge problem, you know? And I have to do this and use, I have to use these specific cards like at specific times. And oh, this boss when they spawn does this. So when I build, I need to build like in a certain way, like right at the beginning. It's just like, what a fucking concept. Like basically creating like an entire genre. Which is not easy these days. Like they essentially created. I don't even. If somebody asked me what Loop Hero was, I'd be like, I don't really know. It's Loop Hero. Like I don't know what else to call it. Like it's an auto battler tactics game, but not even because like someone who's played like a bunch of different auto chess games and stuff, like it's not that at all. So like I wouldn't even call it like something like an auto battle. I don't know what to call it. It's just Loop Hero, right? That's like the best thing I can say about it. It's a thing.
It's awesome. One of the most unique games that I've played. But I also understand. I understand there's an idle games community, and I haven't played any of those. But this is like
I've played some of them, and they're not quite. They're not like this.
Because there's two games that I played this year that were like this, and one is Loop Hero, and the other one is Disgaea 6. Which has like auto battling features that were added to it.
You know what this almost like sounds like is when people used to, and I mean people still do. It's just nobody that I associate with. Not that there's anything wrong with these people.
We don't talk about them anymore.
Yeah, we don't talk about them anymore.
Associate with them anymore.
When Clash of Clans came out and people would like leave, you know, like you'd be working at your desk and like if you'd walk by and see somebody like have it open on their phone, and every now and then they like do something to it. It seems like this, but for people who work from home. Like if you just like have an extra monitor, it's like, yeah, this is where I do my work and this is where Loop Hero runs, and you just
when it first came out, I would have it open like in a window, and I would, because you could just pause it, so then you would do work and then you would unpause it and kind of just let it run like in the corner. You'd be doing work and then you'd go, okay, hang on, and then you'd pause it, do all the stuff you need to do, unpause it, and go back to work. And you could do that like back and forth. You could literally go at your own pace because you can adjust the speed of the running on the fly. You can pause it at any time. So it's awesome. It is a game for people that work from home. That is really funny that you bring that up, because it's like the perfect work from home game, because it literally can occupy like 5 seconds of your time in the middle of something.
Yeah,
that's really funny. And the great thing is it kind of scales to your level of involvement that you want to have.
Yeah,
it's really, really great. And I will say, like, this was on my Critics' Choice shortlist, Loop Hero, because I can't think of any problems I have with it. Like,
you two were real hot on this when it came out. Like for like a solid 2 weeks, it was all you talked about.
I reviewed it on PC. Yeah. So
the only thing I would say is that the final stage is silly, like silly difficult.
Yeah.
Which is why I haven't beaten it. I got close and I just kind of stopped caring about it.
It's so good, and the ending is so good. Like, yeah.
Make the last level easier.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
It's definitely like a final exam of final exams. It's like pretty ridiculous, honestly. What they expect you to do in that last level is like...
Well, it's like for a game that you could kind of like...
It's like the ending of Mega Man 3, basically.
Yeah. Well, it's like for a game that you could play almost as a zombie half the time, it really demands a lot of you in that final level. And I'm like, this is too much. Like, you're going from 0 to 60 like really fast. I want you to just like calm down, you know? But other than that, it's freaking excellent.
Yeah, it's truly fantastic.
And it's cheap.
It is. Devolver had a ridiculous year, 2021. Yeah. 2021, the year of Devolver. There are several games on my Game of the Year consideration that are put out by them. So I guess that will lead into one of mine. I was going to mention Loop Hero, but you've already talked about it, so I'm going to talk about Death's Door.
You can talk about it.
I'm going to talk about Death's Door.
I bought this. Haven't played it yet. I've only bought it because you brought it up when it came out.
Death's Door is maybe the best Zelda game I've played in...
When did Link Between Worlds come out?
2016?
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's better than Link Between Worlds.
What? Oh my god. That was a game I played with the charger plugged in. I was obsessed with that game.
I'm also going to be real. If we're strictly talking about Critic's Choice and scoring and flawless games, I think Death's Door might be better than Breath of the Wild 2.
Oh, you know what? You're entitled to your opinion. I'm not going to say anything. So I was way off. Link Between Worlds was 2013.
Oh wow.
So the big thing is like, and I will just say as a quick aside to you, Mitch, I love you. The destructible weapons in Link Between Worlds are like, or Breath of the Wild are like kind of got on my nerves a little bit. And this is a very different game. This is a game that both has the gameplay chops of those like Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds games, but it also has like a very poignant story about death and about immortality and about, you know, the fact that chasing immortality isn't a good thing. It also embraces like a lot of the themes that the Dark Souls games do, and actually has references to that. There's like an Onion Knight type character in this. And it also hit me at a time when like I was thinking about death constantly. I was thinking about my own mortality constantly, and just having existential dread like almost every night when I lay down to sleep. And so this game hit me at just that time and basically met me where I was and is like, hey, when you beat these bosses are like total like nonsense, really difficult, but like also, you know, like tough but fair. And then afterwards, there's like a eulogy for every boss, and they acknowledge what they were trying to do and how like, even though misguided, like their goals were like understandable and they were having very human struggles. There is a lot of humanity in this game, and it has a really fantastic message. And it's also just a fucking badass Zelda game. Like, it is just top down, super crispy combat, like all that sort of stuff. And I really can't find fault with it. You find a bunch of different weapons. You can have a huge two-handed weapon. You can have like daggers that are really fast. One of the things that I really like about this is that like your special abilities are recharged when you do your melee attacks. So like there's a lot of balancing between, okay, I'm going to get in and I have to do a couple of hits so that I can get my bombs up so that I can go back to a distance or shoot my bow and stuff. Like, it is just a perfectly balanced game. The enemies are like very recognizable. Like, if you put their silhouettes up, like you'd know who all of them are. Like, it's just incredibly well crafted, and I think I would give it basically perfect marks across the board. It's just a truly fantastic game. And, you know, hyperbole aside, you know, like I think it does what Zelda does really, 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 really well. And it also adds like, you know, I wish that Zelda would go more for the story. I think that they did something with Breath of the Wild with talking about like the role of Zelda in this world and like acknowledging your own role and how you want your life to play out and how it actually does. But Death's Door just like goes for it. And it succeeds fantastically in everything that it sets out to do. And I think that that is incredibly laudable. And I think that makes it one of the absolute best games of 2021.
I gotta finish it. I think I'm on like, you know, what were there four major bosses in that game? I think I got through the first two. Yeah. So I gotta go back and actually complete it to really see, you know, how, because you're speaking so highly on the story, and I guess I haven't gotten to the point where that story really hits. because yeah, but no, I agree with Death's Door. I love it really is the best non-Zelda game in my opinion that there's been in quite a while. Just in terms of emulating that classic Zelda style of like the overhead camera, the adventure of going through dungeons, fighting a boss, interacting with the people and stuff, that kind of lead into that dungeon. Yeah, I think it's a really good pick. I like that store a lot.
Cool.
I will play it at some point.
Same.
It was
yeah.
it was one of the games I bought like during a lot of the holiday sales.
That may be a Steam Deck game for me, in all honesty.
Oh man, yeah.
I have like a couple that I'm like
keep
keeping in the back of my
that
mind.
Exists.
They're shipping in February for the first round of people.
We'll see.
They confirmed it.
I still have a reservation. I'm like, we'll see.
Mine's Q2.
And then I'm gonna play with it for a week and see if I actually like want to keep it. Because if I don't, I might get rid of it. Because chances are, get more money than I paid for it. Probably.
You son
I'm
of a
so
bitch.
I'm so happy because everybody that I'm seeing who's getting it right now, like Rami Ismail is just like, man, this thing feels like really, really good, and I'm like, yes, yes, like this is what I wanted to hear because this is the thing I've been waiting for. But yeah, Death's Door is going to be perfect on Steam Deck. Like
any way I can like remote desktop into my PC and just like do crafting and FF14 while I'm on the couch. Sounds
sold.
Great. So
life changing.
Yeah, or do like Game Pass somehow. I don't know if that'll be possible.
I'm
sure
we'll find a way. The open source community will find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone better find a way. So that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Is it my turn?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So I guess to drop two more honorable mentions really quickly. I'm gonna drop Returnal. Just because
hell yeah, I'm gonna tag on to that.
Yeah, Returnal's incredible. I reviewed it for IGN. I gave it an 8, and I tweeted out that Returnal would have been a 9 if on launch it allowed you to suspend your run.
Yep. I agree.
It's if IGN took away decimal points, if they didn't, it would be like an 8.99999. Only thing I really wanted to give Returnal a 9 throughout that whole review process, but I couldn't in good conscience because these runs last upwards of like 3 hours
long.
Sometimes.
They're so long, and
I lost like 2 runs to PlayStation firmware updates.
Yep.
I'm just like that's not acceptable as good as this game is. But they did eventually add that. And I think, with that considered, like Returnal is absolutely one of the best games of the year. It just it combines Housemarque's pedigree for bullet hell shooters and just really, really smart roguelike design elements. It's like the risk and reward choices in Returnal of every run of the Returnal are so good. And, the choice of whether you want to take on a parasite, whether you want to, risk taking on a malfunction that could be minor but could be absolutely devastating to your future run. It's so interesting that every like 2 minutes of Returnal you're faced with one of those interesting choices, and it's different every run. So yeah, like it's incredible. Returnal is just absolutely incredible.
It's funny you say that because Returnal is like my heart almost award.
Same.
I love and we talked about this. We did a whole like year later, a couple weeks ago, like Returnal, talking for like an entire hour about Returnal.
Some quick behind the scenes about like or like some context for Mitch. I just got this game, and I beat Chicory today. But the other game that I beat in 2022 was Returnal. This was the game that like I just started playing.
Yeah.
And so
I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, it's great, but yeah, like one of these things, like I only played it after it had, like it's patched, and you can suspend your thing and upload it to the cloud. You can save scum if you want to, which like I did a bit of, when I was just like, God damn, like
I didn't know you could save scum it.
Yeah, you can suspend upload to the cloud, and then like if you die, you just like download from the cloud. So like I did when I was stuck on the second boss, I was just like, I'm just gonna fight the second boss, and when I die, I'm just gonna go back and fight the second boss, and just keep doing it just to like drill that, because like I was like, I got other shit to do. Like I don't want to do this. I still haven't gotten the secret ending, but like I beat it, you know what I mean? Which is something that I wanted to do.
I did not beat it.
Me either.
But yeah,
Someday.
Josh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to give.
No, you're fine. I'm with you. Like a lot of it is just that the runs take so long, and we talked about this in our last episode, whenever that was, like 2 episodes ago or whatever. Just about how like a lot of the problems come with like this weird God, I can't think of the word, but there's like this like disconnect between like the story and like what you're doing and the difficulty and just like the way it feels like, yeah, there you go. There's a dissonance there. And like, it's like, I want to love, because there's so many things. There's like this like mid-game twist that I thought was like brilliant. And there's all these little other things.
So good.
But it's just like, man, there were so many little frustrating. There was like all these little like cuts, and it just
not only that,
kept me from loving it.
We sat here and like literally were like, okay, how do you make this game more accessible for like a handful of people, to the point where it's like the masses could enjoy it? Like it is very much a game that like, unless you are good enough to play it, you will never beat it. Which I think part of it is like, we're not used to in like, the current generation of just video games in general, for the most part, outside of like, the Souls likes and things like that. But like nobody likes to know that they're just bad at video games, or like just not good enough at video games.
I just know it, but
and I do too, and it it's like full-time job, and like there's just not enough hours in the day as an adult. But like I think for a lot of people, part of the pain is coming to terms with the fact that like, no, I will never see the ending of Returnal, but I have to be okay with that.
I think one of the biggest.
I mean, YouTube exists.
I mean,
I think one of the biggest things that makes that stand
Yeah.
out with this, and this is something that's also similar, or is also true of Metroid Dread, is that like we get those with third-party games. It's not usually with first-party exclusives.
Yeah.
Like there's not typically games in those kind of categories that are like indicative of the platform as a whole that will land in that space. Like Dark Souls is great, but if you don't like Dark Souls, or like you're on whatever, you just are not into these super punishing games, like you don't have to play, the Contra redo. You don't have to play, your Streets of Rage. You don't have to play your Metroid Dread or I mean the other games and stuff like that. And now we've got Metroid Dread and we've got Returnal that are both really hard games. Like, as awesome as they are. But yeah, I think that is an interesting thing, particularly from Sony, for whom like a lot of these games, even if you think that of Horizon or God of War as like challenging games, like you can set it down to like easy or whatever, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for Returnal, it really demands that you fight it on its own terms. And I'd love for them to have more of and we talked about this during the episode, I'd love for them to have like a darkness mirror from Hades, where it's like you can just slowly upgrade your defense, or a God mode where it's like every time you die, you get 5% defense or something, just to like help raise the floor so that more people can kind of see the end of the game. Because I really do love what it's doing. That mid game twist is so good for me. That's like literally one of my favorite moments of the entire year. And it's
a pretty great, like, I mean, like we said in that thing, I was like, Returnal has a very compelling narrative. Like it's some really smart, really good like science fiction. The problem is that if you're not good enough, you just don't see it. Like there's no like I had a bad run but I still climbed. It's like, no, I had a bad run and that's just that. Like you didn't go any further, right? Yeah. Which feels really bad. And I do wish that it was a little more like forgiving in that sense. And then maybe they had a mode that was like, here's the unforgiving version of the game, but yeah.
Good pick.
Thanks. You're so nice with all the good picks.
Yeah.
Another honorable mention before I get to my last it's like, Heart Award, I wanted to give a quick shout out to It Takes Two. The Game Awards Game of the Year, which is still
such a weird,
so weird
choice,
completely unexpected. But take nothing away from It Takes Two. That game is fantastic. That I think going through that game co-op with my buddy is one of the highlights of video games for me in 2022. Just because it is such a interesting co-op experience by having just this game that constantly evolves. You're constantly doing different things over the course of it, and I think one of the things that doesn't get enough respect on It Takes Two is the story, because it is heartwarming. It is also very bittersweet, and it's not it's a very almost respectful portrayal of like a soured relationship. Things don't just magically get better. They have to work at it, and even then, like it's a very bittersweet ending where you're not quite sure how this whole thing wraps up, but you can kind of make your own judgment call of what you think happened with his family. Sorry, that might be spoiler heavy, but I tried to tiptoe around the actual details of what happened. But yeah, it's such a great experience, and I hope anyone who has a good friend that is into video games, like play it with them. It's an unforgettable video game experience, I think. But my Heart Award actually goes to Nier Replicant version 1.225 whatever.
I thought you were gonna do it.
I did at one point. I did know all the numbers in that title. But yeah,
14159.
Another game I bought during sales and haven't played yet.
Nier Replicant is objectively not a great game from like a playing like standpoint. Just a gameplay standpoint, its combat is super repetitive. The side quests suck. The world, while there are some beautiful aspects of it, it's also very drab. There's not much in the way of like really standout visual set pieces, but God, that game has heart. The story is honestly, I think, one of the best video game stories ever told. The acting is phenomenal. This is like the best Laura Bailey performance that I've ever heard. The best Liam O'Brien performance I've ever heard in Vice. It's just everything around the gameplay is just so top tier. And there's a reason why Yoko Taro is revered so heavily in this space of JRPGs, and it's because he's got such a unique voice in this this genre, which typically so often goes into cliches and just things you've seen a million times before. And the twist, oh my god, the ending B twist is just unbelievable. So please put up with the boring parts of Nier Replicant and just get through to the story, because it really is phenomenal.
I will tell you, Mitch, for you, one day I will finish Nier Automata.
Nier Automata is freaking great. Yeah.
I think the story of Nier Replicant is better than Nier Automata, but
interesting.
Nier Automata is just a better game overall, for sure.
Cool.
So yeah, those are my games.
Good deal.
And that was Nier Replicant was your heart pick, you said?
Yes.
Okay. And we haven't got to your critic, or no, you said your critic pick already,
Metroid.
which was
Metroid Dread.
Cool. Okay, Chris, what you got?
I'm going to drop one honorable mention, and then I'm going to go into my Heart Award.
Okay.
So my honorable mention is Hot Wheels Unleashed.
Which Here we go!
One hell of a game, baby. It's just such a, it reminds me a lot of how I used to feel playing racing games of the like as a kid. And just like games like this as a kid. it's incredibly simple in its mission structure. It's literally just like a map, and you just go, and it's like, you're doing this kind of race, you're doing this thing. It knows exactly what it is, and it leans very heavily into it. I love that there are licensed cars all over the place. Like you can be the TMNT car, or the Batmobile, or the DeLorean, whatever. And did
you ever end up getting the DeLorean?
I haven't. I need to revisit the game. There were some Game of the Year games that I wanted to play before I hop back and because I'm not gonna platinum that game, but I am going to complete single player. I love this game.
And I wanna play some with you.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, the custom tracks that people make that will randomly pop up online, the daily challenges that they have. This game is just it doesn't feel like any other racing game, and I had played it right after Forza Horizon, which yes, it is arcade, but it's also sim and whatever. It's that mixture. This is very much a it's an arcade racer, and it knows exactly what it is, and it gives no fucks. I just love it. It's just dumb fun. And whether that's I'm hopping in for 1 or 2 races for 20 minutes, or the day that I really sucked my teeth into it, I played it for 8.5 hours and then couldn't play anything else for another week because my hand had cramped up so much.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think it's a fun game. It's great. My heart award though has to go to Kena Bridge of Spirits. A game that I
got a rut up there.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. A game that I'm actually not done yet, but it's just so wonderful and heartwarming to go back to a 3D platformer of the GameCube era, or one that feels that way, and one that looks this good. While so far in my experience with it, the narrative isn't incredibly deep, but I don't think it's necessarily meant to be. The cutscenes alone are just some of the best that I've ever seen in any video game. Ember Labs, I'm very excited to see what else they have, whatever else they're going to put out in the future, whether it's another Kena or, just another game in general. It'll be really cool to see. But yeah, it does a good job at combining almost that Tack and the Power of Juju meets Uncharted meets, just in terms of exploration at least. Yeah, it's just a very fun platformer puzzle game that has the DNA of games that I grew up with, and I really like being in that space when I'm playing it, and it while it can be very difficult, you can crank the difficulty down. There's definitely moments where I've been wow, I can't believe how quickly this is ramped up. But it's also been a fun challenge. I kind of feel like I'm playing a Dark Souls on training wheels when I play it, because I'm terrible at those games. But I really enjoy my time with it, and I'm excited to get back to it after I'm done Resident Evil.
Kena definitely put Ember Labs on the map. This is going to be, we're going to watch an E3, well, not E3, but we're gonna watch some sort of a big event where there's new trailers dropping, and we're gonna see a black screen, the logo for Ember Labs is gonna pop up,
people
and we're
gonna
lose
their minds. Yeah,
what?
Here we go. All right, here we go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I am so excited for whatever Ember Labs does next, even though I like Kena a lot. I don't think it's phenomenal, but I think it is a really, really amazing first effort from a really exciting new game studio.
Yeah, exactly. I think
there's been a lot of that lately.
Yeah,
it's just yo, your first game is this is your first game. Holy shit!
Yeah,
yeah.
It's that,
but who's working there, right?
Yeah, what has me excited
That's
about it is
really
the promise of what they're going to do, especially after winning Best Indie Game. And people recognize that game now, and it was kind of synonymous with the launch of the PS5. I have a feeling whatever, whether it's a sequel or whatever next project they would do is going to have a lot of backing behind it. So I think it's just I feel similarly to Kena that I feel about Halo Infinite, in that it's okay, you guys have laid a phenomenal groundwork, and you have my attention. What's next? Like that's super exciting to me.
Now, this being your heart pick, what would you want next from Ember Lab? Do you want Kena 2 or do you want something new?
It's too early to tell for me, just because I'm not done Kena yet. I don't know. I mean, they did a really great job with not only this, but the Majora's Mask cinematic that they had put out. That was a number of years ago at this point, but if you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. It's only like 8 minutes long or something like that, but there's an insane amount of talent at that studio, and I think it would be a shame to not see them kind of like spread their wings even further and like see what else they can do. Not that Kena looks bad by any means. It's just like, it's almost like that Naughty Dog thing where it's like, did I need Uncharted? Like, do I need another Uncharted or Last of Us, or like would I love to see them do something else?
I would love to see them do anything else.
Yeah, well,
I would also love to see them do something else.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of feeling for me. Like, yeah, I'll play it if they're going to put it out, but also like, let's see what else you got.
I'll put the same question to you, Mitch. What would you want to see from Ember Labs next?
I think I would like to see something new. I think they wrapped up on Kena pretty well. Yeah, and you know, I think the really good thing about Kena is the fact that it is this new property, and they did such a good job of creating this character of Kena who is so likable in that game. I just want to kind of see what they can do with the lessons that they learned from this game, because I think that studio is, you know, of all the studios that can remember their first game of, like, this is the one that shows like the most potential of a studio's future.
Awesome. Cool. Josh, what's next for you?
I mean, that was it. I brought up my brought up all my picks. So
What was
I don't really have much on. My heart award was Returnal, where I was like, I almost liked it. Yeah.
And then what was your critics one?
I almost loved it.
Loop
My critics
Hero.
one was Loop Hero.
Oh, that's right.
Brian, what was your heart pick?
He was just trying to buy time because he hadn't thought it.
He's like,
figured it out yet. He's like, oh no, Josh isn't ready. I gotta pick now.
Actually, I've actually up to this point, I've got it down to 3. I know my heart pick, and I think there are going to be 2 that are kind of tied for critic pick. One with incredible recency bias and one without. So my heart pick that gets my heart award for 2021 is Inscryption, actually.
Another game I bought and haven't played yet.
This
Josh, come on.
Yeah.
Inscryption.
This is a Josh Mobley game.
That's what I hear.
Yeah,
I hear that, but
when we were talking about when I had the idea to split our Game of the Year awards into 2 categories, this was kind of the game that made me think of that. Because Inscryption takes bigger swings than any of the games that I played this year, but it also whiffs a couple of times. Basically, the way that I described the heart pick is a game that does something you really love, something you really respect, something really new, or something just very unusual, but it kind of stumbles along the way. You wouldn't necessarily give it high marks if you were grading it like with a score. Like if you were giving it a score, it wouldn't be a 9, it wouldn't be a 10, but it would be something that you wouldn't want someone to miss. And I almost quit playing Inscryption like maybe 3 different times. But I pushed through and I got through my frustration and I did beat it. And I got an experience like almost nothing else that I've ever played. And so for that reason, I wanted to have the heart category to highlight these sorts of games that are flawed, yes, but still really demand attention. And Inscryption is a card game. It is a roguelike where every time you die, you go back and you start. But there are certain things that go with you. There are certain cards that are upgradable permanently. There are certain things that you can unlock in your like mystery escape room kind of simulator that you can unlock. And it embraces that format. It takes one idea and it iterates on it in so many different ways, in so many fascinating ways that I really think is laudable. And this is, like I was talking about earlier, this is part of Devolver's year. Like this is a Devolver game, and this is a game that, I got a review code for to talk about on this show. And it really made an impression on me. And it's by Daniel Mullins, who did Pony Island, which is also a game that I talked about on the show, a few years ago at this point.
That was right when we started.
Yeah. And there's other games that had like remasters or kind of redos this year, like Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, and there are some similar kind of things about this game, Inscryption, but it's split into a 3-act structure, and I think the first act is absolutely unassailable. It is one of the best openings of any game I've ever played. It is masterful. And I really didn't like Act 2, and then by the time I kind of got accustomed to Act 3, that was kind of more what I wanted. But for all the flaws that this game has, it really does some fascinating things and says some really interesting things, and combines like a lot of cool games from the past. Like if you've played Her Story or you've played Doki Doki Literature Club, like I said, like there's stuff for you here. If you want a roguelike deck building game, like I'm not even into roguelikes or deck building games, but this just hit for me. Like there's only, Returnal and Hades and Inscryption are like, I think the only roguelikes that I like at all.
Have you played Slay the Spire?
That's true. I played Slay the Spire and I played Downwell. But
I was like, Slay the Spire is fucking phenomenal.
Slay the Spire is very good. But it's Inscryption hits even harder than that when it's hitting. You know what I mean? And so this is my my heart pick for 2021. I think this is the best flawed game that came out in 2021 that I played. So
I would have given it an honorable mention, but I did not want to just go through every single game that I 21 because we'd be here all day.
Yeah, we would be here all day.
But
but if
Inscryption is awesome.
I think we could just mention some names if we wanted to do that while we're on our loop. Some other games in my heart category that I wanted to mention is Lost Words Beyond the Page, which is really, really good. It's a flawed platformer, but it has a really good message about being able to move on and deal with the loss of a loved one who you're really close to. I would say The Forgotten City is also there. Combat is bad, but everything else in that game is amazing. I would also put Deathloop on that list. And I would also put Disgaea 6 on that list. These are all like really, really awesome games that have one or two problems that I think would disqualify them from being the absolute top of the tops for me this year. But you definitely should play these games.
You missed one, Brian. Do you remember what it is? Do you know what it is?
What is it?
It's one that I feel like most people forgot came out in 2021. And you even mentioned it to me when you were describing what the Critic Award was like.
Hold on. Hold on.
Come on, Brian.
Because I deleted some things. Hold
Chicory?
on. Come back to this.
No, it wasn't Chicory.
Banjo-Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie.
Let me tell you about a little game.
Hold on. What did I mention?
When humanity peaked.
Yeah.
All right, it was Hitman 3.
Oh, Mitch. Don't you worry. Hitman's coming.
Oh, we're coming back around to it? I thought we were wrapping up almost.
Yeah, we need to.
Yeah.
These are the honorable mention and heart picks. I haven't gotten to my Critics' Choice yet.
You haven't gotten to your Critics' Choice? Go to your Critics' Choice,
Yeah.
Brian. What's your Critics' Choice?
Are we doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to do it. We've all given it so far.
We've been here for
I
almost
do
2
critics,
hours.
but that's
true.
That's all it's
okay. So my my honorable mentions for critics are Unpacking and Control Ultimate. And I couldn't decide. My you know what? Here we go. My runner-up for Critics' Choice is Chicory, which I finished today. That game is awesome. I only had very minor issues. I got stuck in the geometry like 3 times, but there's a teleport to town function. That game is really good. It's a wonderful take on imposter syndrome and depression and all that sort of stuff. It's very, very like wholesome and good. And I just found myself just running around, just painting the world and stuff like that. It's awesome. It's really, really awesome. Shout out to Janet Garcia, who's literally the reason I even played this game, because she just talked about it all the time.
Also, shout out to Reb Valentine, because that's also one of the games that she has cheerleaded for.
That's true. That's true. I saw her tweet about that as well. And my Critics' Choice for 2021 is Hitman 3.
There it is.
This is the game that introduced me to Hitman. And I went back and played in the Hitman 3 kind of framework and modern engine. I played Hitman 1, 2, and 3 back to back. And man, what a freaking awesome experience. Like, there's nothing wrong with these games. They're just awesome. And they give you the amount of freedom and the amount of self-expression that you would want. There's one level in these games that's basically Knives Out. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, I'm kind of ashamed that I didn't try Hitman before this, but I think that coming to Hitman with this collection of 3 games.
Well, you're also hitting it in a very polished, in its most polished state.
Its most polished state. I played
really, really
all
great.
of these on Xbox Series X in the Halo 3 engine, not Halo 3.
Halo 3 engine.
Wow. I played it in the Halo 3 engine. You wouldn't believe it.
The profits can float.
But I played all of these in the Hitman 3 engine, like with the, hey, you've got access to this and this and this. And man, that's just an entire package is like just incredibly impressive.
That's on my list to play this year at some point. I missed it last year.
Just absolutely full marks.
Hitman is keeping the stealth genre alive.
Hell
I
yeah.
can't wait to see,
almost single-handedly.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what IO does with James Bond. I can't wait.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a believer in that studio now, which like makes me the latest person to the party ever. Like, I showed up to the party and all but one person has already gone home. Like, it's ridiculous. So
I'm glad you mentioned it. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I was expecting you to mention it, so you did. Yes. I was like, I'm leaving it so that Brian can talk about it.
Yeah.
My game of the year, which I don't know that many people played because of everyone's first reaction to it. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh,
great game.
Yeah. It's like one of the only games that I've ever played that by the end of it, I was like, wow, somebody who isn't Naughty Dog and Sony Santa Monica made a linear third-person like action game with an incredible narrative, characters that I fell in love with, and really great gameplay. Like, front to back, when I started playing this game, I had like the lowest expectations, and when I left, like, I was just singing its praises, like, clearly. Like, I can't believe how hard I fell in love with the characters throughout the whole thing. And they all feel like they're all unique. How do I say this? They're different enough from the cinematic versions that they stand out in your mind. It's not like it all just, other than Groot, it's not like they all just blend together. They did a really great job at like creating a story that I cared about throughout the entire experience, which a lot of games that are this long, like this game's like 18 hours long. Not many of them can do that. So, if anybody is on the fence about this game, if you think Star-Lord looks like a fuckboy and, he doesn't deserve your $30 or whatever.
He does look like
He looks like a fuckboy, but like he's actually a pretty likable guy and he's a great leader in this game. I can't believe how much I loved this and how I feel like it just flew under the radar for so many people because of that E3 trailer. And I mean, really, it was like it had the Metroid Dread thing where we saw it at E3 and it came out like a couple months later. But like, do not sleep on this game. I would love to play it again, but I have too many other things to play.
This is on the very, very, very short list of games I didn't get to that I'm going to get to very soon. Like,
yeah,
this and Tales of Arise are two games that I'm like, God, like I really just wish I had time to play these.
Yeah.
During the year, because they both feel like games that really have the potential to like really grab me.
Yeah, it's just it was super surprising. The combat's super fun, and I don't know if I've ever played a game, a linear game with this much dialogue in it. Mm-hmm. And so much of it is optional. Like, I don't even know how much of this game I didn't even see or hear, I should say. Because there's so many conversations that could happen that you can choose not to have or may not happen upon. It's crazy. There's
a level of camaraderie in the core casts of Guardians of the Galaxy that is just unparalleled. I haven't had that feeling of, you know, these characters are like, you know, best friends, even though they fight constantly, even though Rocket is constantly mad at someone. Like, just it's almost one of the, you know, I have a picture of Trafalgar Law right there from One Piece. One Piece is my favorite anime. And the reason why I love One Piece so much is because like this feeling of friendship between the crew.
Right. And
you really get that with Guardians of the Galaxy. It's something that I haven't really felt to this level since Mass Effect. And yeah, it's the dialogue is phenomenal. The relationships, like, you really feel the bond that Groot and Rocket especially really have.
Yep.
And
how dependent they are on one another too.
Yeah. And it's just like great performances all throughout. You know, these characters are obviously inspired by portrayals in the MCU, but they are different enough where they feel like, you know, different versions of those characters. And honestly, in some ways, I think some of them are even better than their MCU counterparts. Like Drax is you know, as much as I love Dave Bautista, Drax in this game is amazing. He's so funny, and just like, you know, he's got such a good character arc.
And the backstory that you get for him, you know, is something that obviously you don't get to explore in the movies. But it's really great to like have context to even going into like, you know, Guardians Volume 3 or revisiting those movies. Kind of put a name to a face of some of the characters in his life.
I'm going to throw this back to you, Chris. Great pick.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Can't find my water.
Anybody have... Here, take mine.
Thanks. I found it. I knocked it over.
Nice. Okay. Well, does anybody have... Did I miss anybody's anything? We got any honorable mentions from anybody? Anything?
Shout out to Psychonauts 2, which is also a phenomenal game.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And like some games that didn't come out this year, but I played for the first time this year. Return of the Obra Dinn, Florence.
Curse of the Dead Gods, which is a game that no one but me played.
I played it.
Oh, you played it?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I played it. Yeah, it was pretty good.
I love Curse of the Dead Gods.
It's like a really solid like roguelike.
Yeah.
With that awesome, you know, Darkest Dungeon like aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but Unpacking is also another fantastic one.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, if you're looking for puzzle games. That game is awesome. The game is really, really awesome.
Shout out to How the Grunch Stole Christmas, which is a Banjo-Kazooie mod that I played on Christmas morning on my my HDMI mod at N64. It was a great way to start my day, and I felt like I was, you know, 5 years old again. It was great.
Okay, fine. If we're going to do that, then shout out to Pokemon Uranium, the fan-made game that I played on a, you know, ridiculous thing. Anyway. Yeah,
shout out to the Steamed Hams mod in Guilty Gear that makes the intro to every round of Guilty Gear begin with steamed hams.
That's great.
Also, shout out to the other Guilty Gear mod that every time you win a round it says knockout from Cuphead, which is really good. Yeah, and you know what? Shout out to you, our listeners, because if nobody else has any closing thoughts, we can wrap this one out.
I'm good.
You're like a book with a mirror at the end of it.
You know who's really the best? You
and you.
I'm Time Magazine. You're the person of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you so much. 2021 was a suck year for a lot of people personally, but for games and for this show. I feel like it was a pretty great one. So I wanted to thank you for joining us, our dear listeners and viewers now on Twitch, since we started doing that, for joining us. It's been awesome to talk to you all during our shows, during the chat, and during spoiler casts and things like that. We thank you so much for supporting us and for joining us on this journey as we continue on into 2022. There's already been some bangers come out so far, and we've got a bunch of big games just around the corner, and we can't wait to talk to you about them this year. So let's just go ahead and say you can find all of us on Twitter at PlatformersPod, and you can find us on Twitch, where we stream each one of these episodes live at twitch.tv/platformerspod. And we archive those episodes on youtube.com/platformerspod. If you want to find me individually, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ribnax, RIBNAX. And you can find the guides that I write and the other things that I write on IGN.com.
You can find me on Twitter at TheJawaJosh. And if you want to see all the cool video essay stuff I'm working on, you can go to youtube.com/mediaismythic.
You can find me all over the internet and gaming places at Shrives93. And I will be providing you with your social media content for IGN.com till the end of my days on the weekends.
And you can find me on Twitter at Jurassic, on Twitch at Jurassic Rabbit, and also at IGN.com. Views person and video content person. I actually have a review that's dropping tomorrow that I cannot tell you what it is because of embargoes and stuff. But yeah, look forward to it.
Hooray!
Please be excited.
Please be excited.
Please be excited.
Please be excited. Thank you so much for joining us, Mitch. This was an absolute blast.
Yes, thank you
for
so
having
much.
me. Appreciate it.
Always a joy. Always a pleasure. Please review us on your podcast platform of choice. And if you have a good time with the show, tell friends about it, because we don't advertise and word of mouth is the only way we have to grow. So I just want to go ahead and thank you once again for joining us for this episode. From everybody here at the Platformers, we hope you have a wonderful week and stay safe out there, because until next time, we are out.
Boy.
Boy.